there in Love Your Liverville. This is Dr. Garrett Smith, the nutrition detective around these here YouTube parts. And we are here for episode 124, where we are going to be covering fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome, the myalgic encephalomyelitis. If I got the whole term right, they just lots of terms. Let me just put something out there to begin with. When there's lots of terms for something, like fibro, in my opinion, they do this to confuse the matter. And so, like, when I'm trying to look up research on it, I'm having to research 3 different terms. I'm researching chronic fatigue, I'm researching fibromyalgia, I'm researching myalgic encephalomyelitis. They do this, in my opinion, to hide it wherever they can. Kind of like when they named retinaldehyde retinal, which is the same word as the word for relating to your retina. And when they call acetaldehyde, they don't relate it to ethanol. They call it ethanol and acetaldehyde. They change the names. This is part of the game to keep us all in the dark about what is affecting us. So, fibromyalgia. Funny thing, remember, those of you who have been in the health game a long time, modern medicine didn't used to admit that fibromyalgia was actually a thing. They used to actually say it doesn't really exist. Mostly women. It's all in your heads, ladies. Just here, have a benzo, have a SSRI, an antidepressant, and here's some hormones, and maybe here's a painkiller. Just go drug yourself to early death. But the condition you have doesn't exist. So we're just going to give you some medicine until you go home and leave us alone because we don't know what to do about it. Or everybody just goes, it's hypothyroidism, which is part of the symptoms. Hypothyroidism doesn't cause fibromyalgia because hypothyroidism is a symptom of something else, like what we're going to talk about today: toxicities and deficiencies and toxic bile theory, and how your leaky toxic bile is going into your bloodstream and causing you problems. So let's do this real quick. Let's do a little quick review of toxic bile theory. If you want the bigger review of it, go to episodes number 53 or episode number 71 of this live stream. And that's where you can kind of get a bigger background on toxic bile theory. So now, so think of people talk about the liver detoxing. Okay, just a quick review. The liver processes things. The liver doesn't actually make anything disappear necessarily, right? Toxins don't hit your liver and they just go poof, they're gone. Just what just happened? Just like a sewage processing plant. There we go. Okay. Just like a sewage processing plant processes toxic sewage and then pushes out, they have to get rid of, it's like nuclear waste, right? You got to get rid of nuclear waste somehow. You can collect it and you can concentrate it, but you still have to get rid of it. So your liver, to get rid of toxins, it makes bile. So bile is by definition the most toxic fluid in your body. It's toxic by itself. The bile itself is. And there's the toxic things that your liver's trying to get rid of in it. Whether those are fat-soluble poisons like vitamin A, vitamin E, cholecalciferol, vitamin D supplements that your body's trying to get rid of, forever chemicals, DDT, whatever your liver's trying to get rid of, if it can process it, it processes it, and then it puts it into the bile. That's how your liver gets rid of it. So think of the bile as your liver's poop. You don't want to keep poop around. You want it out. So you want the bile to leave in your poop. If you have, let's say, reflux like GERD, you've got bile going back up into your stomach. You can absorb the bile through your stomach into your bloodstream that way. You could, when your bile goes down into your gut, you know how everybody talks about leaky gut and dysbiosis as being everything that causes all health problems? Well, those two things are caused by toxic bile. Changing your gut biome and toxic bile eating holes through your intestines. That's leaky gut. Funny thing, one of the things I talk about that are toxic, which is vitamin A, retinoic acid, which is what it turns into, is used as a chemical peel on people's faces to dissolve their upper layers of skin. Gosh, do you think it could eat holes in your tender little intestines? I'd say yes. Do you think it could eat holes in your, I don't know, if it gets into your blood, it could eat holes in your brain even. Don't consume a so-called vitamin that turns into a chemical peel in your body. That's a simple thing, right? So we're going to go over, so when this toxic bile leaks into your blood, all the toxins that are in it leak into your blood. What happens if you don't have enough of very specific minerals and potentially an amino acid known as nicotinic acid to help run your detox systems? So you're lacking minerals, you're lacking a very specific amino acid that produces energy to run your detox system, and you've got too many toxins leaking into your blood. You are self-poisoning yourself. You can get all sorts of symptoms. I go over different diseases each week just about here to show you the research that this is all connected. Nearly all human diseases, chronic diseases today, are tied to this paradigm. How can I go into the research each week and show the same pattern? It's just a different syndrome presentation of the same general big problem patterns, okay? So let me find, Joe, you don't need to, I got to find which window we're doing first. Okay, so yeah, we got it. Wait, was this it? No. Hold on, wrong one. Okay, so yeah, we're going to do this one. Let's do there so I can see it. And let me get everything back on my screen. There we go. Okay. So for those of you, here's something that in today's hypersensitive world, I think those who get offended easily would have a lot of problem with this kind of health approach. Because, now just think about this in terms of the bigger society stuff. It's really like kind of mean today to call somebody, you're toxic, right? Or then they might get offended if you say, you're lacking in something. Well, so what am I here doing? I'm telling people that the reason you're sick is you're toxic and you're deficient. So in a certain way, this could be very offensive to many people today, right? I'm not lacking anything. I'm perfect just the way I am. If you're sick, you're not. If you're prioritizing your mental health and using expressions like that, you probably got some things going on. And these toxicities affect your brain, and they affect your gut, and they affect your pain. And I'm going to show you this. So before I jump into this part, if you want to watch the gut connection, if you want to go over where I go over SIBO, small intestinal bowel overgrowth, small intestine bacterial overgrowth, SIBO, and leaky gut and irritable bowel stuff and all that stuff, there's a couple live streams back, Joe. I don't remember which one it is, but if you want to put that up, that's cool. So the toxic bile that comes out of your liver, it goes into your gut. It changes the microbiome. So when you hear about dysbiosis, the dysbiosis didn't just happen on its own. Something changed the environment of your gut. Like, I don't know, toxic bile and all the toxins it contains. And so you grow different things, the wrong things. And then this gets into a vicious cycle where then the biome takes the toxic bile, makes it more toxic, and then you reabsorb it. On a normal standard American diet, you reabsorb 95% of the bile acids that go into your gut. If you are eating a low fiber diet, like let's say variations of carnivore or variations of keto, you're not feeding your gut biome, the bifido particularly, and you're not putting down soluble fiber that can soak up bile so that you poop more. So it is possible that people on keto or carnivore diets or whatever variation of a low fiber diet that somebody might do, they're not pooping out much bile, so they're reabsorbing maybe more than 95% of it. We're doing things like soluble fiber as tolerated by the person, the type, and the amount. There is no protocol. We don't do protocols here. We are much too smart for protocols. And we make sure that people are pooping, because pooping is the best way to get rid of the toxic bile. And so we, in theory, can get rid of more than 5% of our bile through our bowels a day. Now, some of it does end up, if you get bile in your blood, these toxins, this bile, you will excrete some of it through your kidneys. Tends to damage your kidneys on the way out. Funny thing, Grant Genereux, the guy who taught me about vitamin A toxicity, he was about to go into, chronic kidney failure. They were going to put him on dialysis. He had terrible eczema and he had jaundice. So his liver is the jaundice, right? His kidneys is chronic kidney failure, and his skin was jaundice because he's not getting rid of the toxicity that's building up in his skin. He fixed all of these by going on basically red meat, beef or bison, black beans, and white or brown rice. He changed them around as he went. Okay. First person his kidney doctor had ever seen reverse chronic kidney disease. Now, we have another person in the program now who has fully reversed their PBC. Some call it primary biliary cholangitis, and some call that C cirrhosis. Full reversal based on testing. This is this hepatologist, the liver doctor's first time seeing this. We're doing firsts that doctors haven't seen before because we are dealing with the chronic toxicities that cause these things. So just remember, toxic bile changes the biome. Toxic bile or gut biome dysbiosis makes bile more toxic. Bile is then reabsorbed, goes right back to the liver. More toxic bile goes right back to the liver. The liver gets damaged by the more toxic bile. And then you have this vicious cycle. So let's just show this in fibromyalgia, shall we? So, Joe, here, let's go to the other screen. Potential role of microbiome in chronic fatigue syndrome / myalgic encephalomyelitis, as in CFS-ME. Well, let me turn off my little phone ringer there. This is just some basics. We're just covering that they say that this is going along with it. Chronic fatigue syndrome, myalgic encephalomyelitis. I'm just going to say CFS-ME for the rest of this, okay? I'm not going to... It's just too many words to repeat again and again. Is a severe multi-system disease characterized by immunological abnormalities and dysfunction of energy metabolism. Recent evidences suggest strong correlations between dysbiosis and pathological condition. Hey, if you leak toxic bile into your blood, guess how many systems could be impacted? Oh, all of them. All of them. Anything the blood touches, when the blood has toxic bile in it, heart, brain, muscles, bones, organs, everything the bile touches can be basically self-toxified. Okay? So we've got immunological abnormalities. What is your immune system really there for? If you want to believe in the pathogen war, the war on cancer, the war on autoimmunity, if you want to believe that inside your body is a war, go ahead. You'll have fallout. You'll have casualties. That's what they want. Chemotherapy is a war on your body, and you're just hoping that the cancer goes away before it kills you, which is kind of like war, right? That's what they do. We're not down with that. Your immune system is a cleanup crew. It cleans up the garbage in your system that makes you sick. And when you start to realize and take responsibility for that part of your health, it all starts to make sense. And then if you're even one of these people who can take responsibility for your health, if you do the wrong things and you don't feel good, then you go, oh, I know exactly what I did. And then you can choose to do it again or not. I don't care what you do. You want to make choices where you know the consequences? You're an adult. I'm teaching my children that to observe when they eat the wrong foods, what it does to them. I'm not going to try to shield them from it entirely. I need them to feel it. Feel the pain. Okay? That's how we learn. Oh, sorry, Joe wants me to zoom a little bit. Wait, wrong one. Here, let me do this. Okay, sorry, that one is kind of small. Sorry about that. But now there's one more other thing I wanted to show in here. So we're just covering the symptoms right now that conventional medicine says. You may, if you're out there with fibro, you may have more than this. You may have multiple conditions because, as we talked about, the toxic bile can go and ruin everything. The main symptom of CFS-ME is a persistent, unexplained fatigue, together with other symptoms such as cognitive dysfunction, something's affecting the brain, unrefreshing sleep, common for toxins and deficiencies, post-exertional malaise, myalgia, which is muscle pain, and joint pain. Exertional malaise, we've talked about this here a bunch of times. It's important for you to know if you're really sick that you don't want to do things that trigger excessive bile dumping. Well, exercise triggers bile dumping. Now, I'm a huge fan of exercise. Moving your body is necessary to be healthy as a human. And if you broke your leg, is anybody going to tell you to go out and run a mile on it? No, you're in a cast. That would be the dumbest thing you could do. You don't go out and start jogging when you have a cast on. So if you're in a state of real toxicity and deficiency and you say that exercise, whatever I try to do, makes me feel worse, what do we say here? The famous, "Doc, it hurts when I do this." Well, then don't do that. When you're really toxic and really sick, you may not be able to do much exercise, or walking 2,000 steps a day might be all the movement that you can manage without making yourself feel like you got hit by a truck. Then that's what you try to do at the start. And what people will see, maybe you guys can comment, make sure to comment after we're done, but those in the chat, you may want to comment about how at a certain time you weren't able to exercise without making yourself feel worse, or a certain amount was okay and a certain amount wasn't. And then later, as you got better, you were able to exercise more. And I can tell you now that at 48, my exercise sessions are better than they've ever been. And I actually get more muscle growth and more strength out of fewer sets. I don't have to punish myself like I did when I was younger to get benefits. Okay. So exercise to tolerance is what we do here. And if that's not much to begin with, that's okay. It will get better. Okay. So, but just notice muscle pain, joint pain, exertional malaise. There you go. Let me just make sure there's nothing else on this one. I don't think I marked anything else on this one. Oh, here we go. Well, this is not going to it. Let me find it. This glass, man, they don't necessarily jump to where I want it. Maybe, forget it. That's enough on that one. So let's go to this next one. Altered microbiome composition in individuals with fibromyalgia. Imagine that. Listen to how specific the gut so there would have to be something that's affecting the gut microbiome that's similar between fibromyalgia patients to get the results I'm about to say. When comparing fibromyalgia patients with unrelated controls using differential abundance analysis of the gut bacteria, so how many of each type, significant differences were revealed in several bacterial taxa, types of bacteria. Variance in the composition of the microbiome was explained by fibromyalgia-related variables. more than by any other innate or environmental variable and correlated with clinical indices of fibromyalgia. The composition, the recipe of the microbiome. We'll get into the recipe of the bile too. The recipe of the microbiome correlated with the clinical indicators like tender points, fatigue, all that stuff of fibromyalgia. Using machine learning algorithms, hey, they can actually use them for something good. The microbiome composition alone allowed for the classification of patients and controls. Receiver operating characteristic area under the curve, 87.8%. To the best of our knowledge, this is the first demonstration of gut microbiome alteration in non-visceral pain. The changes in the gut of fibromyalgia are so consistent that they're basically saying they could try to diagnose it with a gut microbiome test. Now let me help you with this, because then some people go, well, why don't I just go take probiotics then? We talk about probiotics in the Love Your Liver program. We do. And can you try them? Sure. Let me get into my garden analogy here a little bit. Your gut is like a garden. The bacteria are like the plants you're trying to grow. Your gut tissue is like the soil. And then think of what comes down from your liver and basically waters the soil every day. That's bile. Didn't I do this one? Okay, sorry. Oh, I didn't hit that's what I did. I didn't hit the send button, Hope. Sorry about that on the link. I had copied and pasted, I just didn't hit the send. So if this toxic bile, think of if you have a problem in your garden. Anybody who's gardened before understands this. If you have a problem with the plants growing in your garden, they're not growing well, or you seem to be growing the wrong type of plants, like maybe weeds you don't want, and you're not growing the things you do want, which hopefully are not tomatoes or peppers. Your problem is in the soil. Either what your soil has too much of in it, oh, I don't know, like toxins, or what the soil is lacking, oh, I don't know, like minerals. So what do we do? Do you just keep trying? Could you do this? Like people do with probiotics. Could you just continue throwing seeds on the soil and hoping that they're going to take somehow? I mean, you could do that. You might get a couple here and there that find the right environment, but that's not the long-term solution. The long-term solution, anybody in gardening and farming knows, you fix the soil. You fix the toxicities, you fix the deficiencies, and then the right plants grow, or the plants that you want can have the opportunity to grow. It's the same with your gut. So when you have a gut dysbiosis, fix the toxic bile and the deficiencies. That's what we're going to go into. Okay. Now this next one. So in toxic bile theory, we talk about the two main things that cause problems with this leaking bile into your system. It's the amount of it, right? I mean, how fast a leak is happening is a big determinant of how much damage is going to happen. And then the recipe of the bile, the composition of the bile, what is high in it in terms of toxins or other toxic bile acids, and what is low in it. So the different recipes of toxic bile, follow me here. You got a different recipe of toxic bile. It causes different, a recipe can cause specific symptoms. Okay. The recipe, just like you could take flour and sugar and eggs. Not that I'm saying to eat this stuff, but you could combine them in different amounts and in different ways to make different foods. Now, yes, the ingredients are similar, but the end products can be very, very different. So just remember, I just told you it's the toxic bile that changes the gut biome. They just told you that you could use the gut biome to basically diagnose fibromyalgia, and they were putting that number of like 90%, close to 90% there. And here we are, these same authors who did that last paper are now saying that the recipe of the bile, wait until you get to this. The recipe of the bile gives it away. Altered serum bile acid profile in fibromyalgia is associated with specific gut microbiome changes and symptom severity. This is so much fun. Here we go. Alterations in the composition and function of the gut microbiome in women with fibromyalgia has recently been demonstrated by them, including changes in the relative abundance of certain bile acid metabolizing bacteria. Wait, so you mean the bile acids are like feeding the bacteria or not feeding certain bacteria? Tell me more. Bile acids can affect multiple physiological processes, especially when they're in your blood where they're not supposed to be, including visceral pain, that's organ pain, but have yet to be explored for association to the fibromyalgia gut microbiome. So when was this paper done? 2023. They're finally getting around to this. But thank you to these authors. At least somebody's getting around to it. I'm just here taking it and putting it into the real world for you to use to fix yourself with. Alterations in the relative abundance of several bacterial species known to metabolize bile acids were observed in women with fibromyalgia. Wait. So if there's more bile acid metabolizing bacteria, how would those come about? Is it because you have to feed them? Soil, folks, accompanied by significant alterations in the serum concentration of secondary bile acids, including a marked depletion of alpha muricolic acid. I want you to understand that. Secondary bile acids are not made by your liver. Your liver makes primary bile acids. These are generally less toxic. It is your gut microbiome that converts primary bile acids into the much more toxic secondary bile acids. And they're saying here, there's more bile acid metabolizing bacteria in women with fibromyalgia, and there's a difference in the secondary bile acids in the blood. So secondary bile acids in the blood means that they leaked out from your gut. Leaky gut. I've shown before in the research that leaky gut is caused by toxic bile. Toxic bile rules leaky gut. Toxic bile rules your gut microbiome. You can forget all the stuff that everybody else out there is saying about it. Gluten doesn't cause leaky gut. We have shown the research where they could not recreate the inflammatory effect of celiac in a rat cell model until they added vitamin A, retinoic acid chemical peel. Anybody? And I've shown research where when they give gluten to celiacs, they dump more bile than normal people. So if you thought gluten was the cause of leaky gut, no. Gluten, it requires vitamin A to cause the inflammation, and gluten in certain people triggers more bile dumping. So again, we can just bring it all back around to toxic bile theory. If you're looking elsewhere for these answers, good luck. So, serum alpha muricolic acid was highly correlated with symptom severity, including pain, intensity, and fatigue. So they're saying when this ingredient was different in the recipe, even though this one was lower, well, if that one's lower, what are other ones? Taken together, these findings suggest serum bile acid alterations are implicated in nosoplastic pain. Changes in the bile recipe, up and down, are associated with pain. The changes observed in the composition of the gut microbiota and the concentration of circulating secondary bile acids seems congruent with the phenotype, the expression, the syndrome that you see of increased nociception, more sensitivity to pain, lower pain threshold, and are quantitatively, as in how much or how little, correlated with symptom severity. Okay. And one last one, just confirming the connection of bile to this. Metabolic profiling of a myalgic muscle pain encephalomyelitis chronic fatigue syndrome discovery cohort reveals disturbances in fatty acids and lipid metabolism. Hey, what metabolizes your fatty acids and makes cholesterol and triglycerides and does all that? Oh, your liver does. What else does your liver make? Bile. In this pilot study, we compared plasma metabolic signatures in the discovery cohort, 17 patients and 15 matched controls, and explored potential metabolic perturbations as the aftermath of the complex interactions between genes, transcripts, and proteins. Pathway analysis points to a few pathways with high impact and therefore potential disturbances in patients, mainly taurine metabolism. Do you know that your body can bind taurine to bile acids? And that taurine is often protective against symptoms that we call vitamin A deficiency, which doesn't exist. Do you know that taurine can bind to retinaldehyde to make it less toxic for you? Do I suggest everybody does taurine? No. If you try taurine and you don't feel good on it, then don't do it. Because here's the deal. We don't know what your bile recipe is. And adding taurine changes the bile recipe. If it changes your bile recipe for the better, you'll feel better. If it changes the bile recipe for the worse overall, you'll feel worse. So if you try taurine, if you read the magical research on taurine and you decide you're going to take it and you don't feel good, stop taking it. If you feel better on it, take it, but know that over time you probably won't need it or want it anymore, because if you do what we're doing, your bile recipe will change for the better. Think of it. If you have a bad bile recipe at the start and you medicate it with extra taurine and it makes your bile acid recipe better. Well, with all the stuff we do to help your liver and help you make less toxic bile, over time, your bile acid recipe will change for the better, and the taurine may actually make it worse. It'd be like if you were a crappy cook in the beginning and you were doing things to try to make your food better that were not normal cooking things. And then as you got better at cooking, you don't have to use those little silly beginner tricks anymore because you're just better at it. That's the same thing that happens with this stuff. So, what is Joe saying? 2 links. Oh my gosh, I'm so far behind. Here we go. And there's this. I spent a lot of time on the toxic bile thing because I want you to understand where this problem is coming from. Okay, so here we go. Taurine metabolism and glycerophospholipid metabolism. Hey, do you know how you store toxins in your liver? Phospholipids to help bind. They take vitamin A and a free fatty acid ester, which is in all your naturally unrefined oils, lots of free fatty acids. So you're giving yourself lots of stuff to store toxins with. And then you need choline, phosphatidylcholine, a phospholipid, to bind these two things together to store it in your liver. And then you're storing fat-soluble toxins in your liver. And if you were storing lots of fat-soluble toxins in your liver, gosh, what do you think your liver might make more of to make more room for all those fat-soluble toxins? It makes fatty liver. Is this making sense? You take a fat-soluble vitamin, really a fat-storable alcohol, and you eat free fatty acids. They combine via phosphatidylcholine. And in the example of vitamin A, the enzyme that binds these two is called LRAT. Lecithin, which is phosphatidylcholine, lecithin retinyl acyl transferase. It says it needs phosphatidylcholine in the name. So, very good at storing vitamin A and other fat-soluble toxins in your liver. Combined with primary bile acid metabolism. There it is again. Bile acids and fibro. as well as glyoxylate and dicarboxylate metabolism. This is going to get into aldehydes and all that stuff, and a few other pathways, all involved broadly in fatty acid metabolism. Okay, moving on. That was the connection between toxic bile theory and fibro. Now let's go into, I'm on the wrong one there. Let's go into vitamin A toxicity and fibro. Here we go. This is a thread of mine on Twitter talking about people love to think that beta carotene is somehow good for them. It's not essential. It's the plant vitamin A. It's not good for you. It will cause you problems. So let me just show you this is the gaslighting. This is why people don't get better from this, is because medical science likes to gaslight people. From this paper, what do they call it? Carotenemia, a review. It's 2013, I believe. No, I'm sorry, 1981. But here's the important, let me get this link for you guys. Here's the important part that I just want to show you how stupid they think everybody is. Hypothyroidism. Gosh, that doesn't go with fibro, does it? Hypothyroidism, diabetes mellitus, hepatic, liver, and renal kidney diseases may be associated with carotenemia, excess carotenoids in the blood, but wait, but are not caused by ingestion of carotene. I'm sorry, how would you get excessive carotenoids in the blood? You eat too many of them. And there's enough research linking these conditions with high carotenoids in the blood, and they're just going to have the gall to tell you that they're not connected. Tell me you can pick up on this. Well, wait, all these side effects that came about in people in the weeks and months after the injection they got that affects their immune system, but the effects that they've noticed are not connected to the injections at all. Does this sound familiar? Safe and effective? Anybody? And they'll try to say that like people with hypothyroidism often turn orange because their thyroid function is low, and so they're not breaking down carotene into retinol, which neither of them are necessary, and both of them are anti-thyroid. But then they'll say it's because you're hypothyroid that you can't break down the vitamin A. How about this? How about vitamin A toxicity ruins your thyroid, and when your liver's done storing carotenoids and vitamin A and it's full, you start pushing them out elsewhere into your skin and subcutaneous fat, and you start turning yellowish orange. So now, what if there was a couple ladies who commented publicly on my Twitter? I posted that I was going to do fibromyalgia today. And this is what one person posted. I developed it years ago after I was a vegetarian and did a lot of carrot juicing and turned orange. It did come on suddenly, but I was hardly in prime health. Okay. So we got that. Now, here's another saying of mine, which is my car worked just fine until it broke. People don't tend to care about things until the stuff hits the fan. Now, I'm not judging her for that. I'm just saying she actually turned orange and mentioned developing it years ago. And then here's somebody else. Another public comment on Twitter. Same. I did carrot and beetroot juice for years. It was addictive. I've been over how carotenoids are addictive. Addictive things are not good for you, folks. But I never really supported my liver health either over years. But jump on YouTube and watch Dr. Garrett's Love Your Liver live streams for the first time I could relate as he explained our symptoms and why. Joe, I don't know. Its GLASP is not working on here. Let's see. Is it going to work? Oh, there we go. So, but yes, these are public Twitter comments. So now, for those who still don't think carotenoids could be bad for you, hey, is there joint pain in fibro? Muscle pain, joint pain? Okay. So what happens, this is a study I've brought up many times, what happens when people fed a rabbit just carrots? Right? It's kind of like the meme, like rabbits eat tons of carrots. Hyperostotic polyarthropathy. Okay. Multiple bony growths. Okay. Excessive bony growth, hyperostotic. Poly, multiple, joint, pathy problems. Multiple joint problems with excessive calcification, bony growth. In a rabbit, a suspected case of chronic hypervitaminosis A from a diet of carrots. So we're gonna leave it at that. Let me put this here. Did I already do this one? Chronic hypervitaminosis A can occur in many species, including humans, after excessive dietary intake of vitamin A. Retinol. They didn't say carotene, they said retinol. You'll find this in a second. The most common presentation of chronic hypervitaminosis A is a polyarthropathy, multiple joint pains with hyperostosis, bony growths, bone spurs, where they say your meniscus is gone. You wore out your meniscus. You didn't wear it out. It calcified from the bottom up. Your meniscus didn't disappear. It calcified. And ankylosis of various joints. This case report describes a probable case of naturally occurring hypervitaminosis A. Foods can do it too, folks. Induced polyarthropathy in a rabbit after chronic ingestion of a diet made up almost exclusively of carrots. Carrots do not contain retinol, but are rich in provitamin A or beta carotene. Rabbits are unique in that they can convert 100% of dietary beta carotene into retinol. Gosh, so is it the carotene that's the problem, or is the retinol that it turns into? For all those of you out there who are like, animal vitamin A is not the same as carotenoids. We convert it just fine. It's part of our detox mechanism. It's not making it into a vitamin. So we got joint pain with carotenoids and vitamin A. We saw that there was joint pain in fibro. Let's keep going. Neuromuscular. Wait, if there was anything that fibromyalgia would be called, it would be a neuromuscular disease, right? Neuromuscular adverse effects associated with systemic retinoid dermatotherapy, monitoring and treatment algorithm for clinicians. Let me back up on this. First, any provitamin A, carotenoid that can break down into vitamin A that you eat, and retinol, animal vitamin A that's in your cod liver oil or your organ meats or whatever, or your dairy. These all eventually get detoxed and broken down into all trans retinoic acid, 13-cis retinoic acid, and 9-cis retinoic acid. Okay. The pharmaceutical name, the pharma cartel's name for all trans retinoic acid is retin-A or tretinoin. So when you eat vitamin A, you are taking tretinoin, all trans retinoic acid internally, you are making it inside of you. When you eat vitamin A, you are making 13-cis retinoic acid inside of you. This is the same thing as Accutane, isotretinoin. So every time you eat vitamin A, you are taking Accutane to some amount. 9-cis retinoic acid is called alitretinoin, and it's really only used as chemotherapy. So, I wonder what we'll find as side effects of these retinoic acids. We already know as a chemical peel, all trans retinoic acid, They put it on your face as a chemical peel and it dissolves the upper layers of skin. Kelsey said Bugs Bunny and bunnies eating carrots all the time trope. It's got to be a psyop. Yep. We all get good at spotting them after a while, don't we? Like the whole carrots make your night vision better. And then I've shown the research where in women, carrots made their night vision worse. Nutrition is 98% psyop, folks. Oh, yeah, and Popeye was spinach. Yes, right. So here we go. Although neuromuscular adverse effects represent significant clinical manifestations of hypervitaminosis A syndrome, neuromuscular adverse effects represent significant clinical actual symptoms, manifestations of hypervitaminosis A syndrome. Surprisingly little attention has been paid to the potential neuromuscular toxicity of vitamin A derivatives, retinoids. So, fibro people, tell me if this sounds like you. Isolated cases of stiff person-like syndrome, epileptic seizures, and generalized muscle stiffness syndrome. We just went over joint pain. I mean, stiffness would be like muscle pain, generally myalgia. Possibly or probably related to oral treatment with isotretinoin have also been reported. In addition, oral isotretinoin has reportedly been associated with muscular adverse effects that most frequently manifest as myalgia and stiffness, and in rare cases as true myopathy or rhabdomyolysis. Did I do this one yet? What is that? 200? Yeah, I got that one. Okay. Huh, weird. It sounds like if you made too much 13-cis-retinoic acid in your body, you might get neuromuscular effects like muscle pain and stiffness. If you don't know about, fibro and depression and anxiety go together a lot. If you don't know, there's basically a black box warning on isotretinoin about not unaliving yourself. Weird that there's this syndrome of things. Okay. Myalgias and myopathies. I just wanted to go and hear about other drugs that you may have taken that damaged your liver, causing you muscle pain and muscle diseases. Myalgias and myopathies. Drug-induced myalgias and myopathies. Okay, so just wanted to hit on a couple things here. Myalgias and proximal muscle weakness are typical symptoms. Onset can be weeks to months after drug exposure. Oh, here's how people miss the connection. Onset can be weeks to months after drug exposure. Any of you take Accutane as a teen and then develop problems months or years later? Yes, happens all the time. Alcohol can cause myopathies. This was what I wanted to hit on. Alcohol. Notice how that word ends in OL. Retinol ends in OL. Tocopherol, tocotrienol ends in OL. Those are vitamin E. Retinol is vitamin A. Cholecalciferol, calcitriol, the so-called vitamin D that they also sell to you to put in baits around your house as rat poison called Terra D3 and Decon. Alcohols. These are fat, storable alcohols. If you want to keep calling them a hormone, go ahead. But that mindset will get you in trouble with them. So alcohol can cause myopathies. Well, does it make sense that retinol could cause myopathies too? Retinol turns into a retinaldehyde, turns into an acid, retinoic acid. Alcohol, ethanol, turns into acetaldehyde and acetic acid. They go through the exact same detox pathways. Okay? Evaluation of muscle. So we just talked about muscle pain. We talked about joint pain in a rabbit. eating too many carrots. Now we have evaluation of musculoskeletal effects in patients on systemic isotretinoin treatment. So they're taking oral 13-cis retinoic acid, which you do whenever you eat vitamin A. And especially folks out there, if you've been trying to eat what you thought was a healthy diet before, and you're eating tons of orange vegetables and orange and yellow and red fruits and vegetables and dark green leafy vegetables, you are poisoning yourself. You are making your situation worse. It's not healthy. They don't want you healthy. So this is isotretinoin. Musculoskeletal side effects. So we're talking like joints, more joints now, right? Side effects we're seeing in 49.5% of patients. Wow, a drug they give people that causes side effects in 50% or more patients. Back pain was reported during the treatment period in 78.7% of patients. The diagnosis was mechanical back pain in 39.7%, and inflammatory back pain in 60.3% of patients. The moderate to severe back pain group received higher cumulative isotretinoin doses than the mild back pain group. The dose makes the poison. Yes, sometimes poisons are just poisons. Vitamin A is just a poison. The more poison these people took, the worse their symptoms. Okay, so there's your vitamin A connection. Let's go to the next one. Is this the one I want? Okay. So another toxin we talk a lot about is copper. Copper is a toxic metal. Do not try to get more of it in your diet. Do not, for goodness sake, please don't supplement this poison. So let's just go and let's just check out copper connected to fibromyalgia. Metal-induced oxidative stress level in patients with fibromyalgia syndrome and its contribution to the severity of disease, a correlational study. So what do they look at? The plasma levels of toxic heavy metals. Key word there. Plasma levels of toxic heavy metals and essential metals with oxidative stress markers. Okay? They were correlating them, the association. Oh, yeah. LPO. So levels of LPO, PCG, nitric oxide, and copper, manganese, and aluminum were significantly higher. And magnesium and zinc were significantly lower in patients compared to controls. Class, what pattern do I want to see in people of some things being low and other things being sufficient or higher than what most people want? It's right there. A positive association was observed between OS, oxidative stress parameters, FIQR, which is, here, let me get all these, here's all the abbreviations. Where's the FIQR? Oh, the Fibromyalgia Impact Questionnaire Revised, and tender points is TP. Okay. A positive association was observed between oxidative stress, the Fibro questionnaire, and tender points with copper, aluminum, and manganese. Copper causes liver injury and cholestasis and toxic bile leakage. Manganese causes liver damage, liver injury, cholestasis, and toxic bile leakage. Aluminum is an absolute neurotoxin. You want to consume as little of it as possible. I look at copper in both blood and hair. I look at manganese. We don't do much about manganese. As long as you don't try to eat manganese, your body will actually detox it. You just fix your liver in general and your body gets rid of a lot of these toxins. And aluminum, I have a very specific video in the Love Your Liver program about, I think it's about 8 sources of aluminum that you want to avoid so you're not adding more aluminum to your food. So, conclusion. I love how this is great where they did this. Conclusion, heavy metals such as aluminum. But wait, why did they leave out copper and manganese? Oh, are they gaslighting us again? Oh, must be. Heavy metals such as aluminum induce oxidative stress parameters and decrease the levels of essential trace minerals such as magnesium and zinc. Gosh, they weren't talking about copper deficiency now, were they? Which may be responsible for the severity of fibromyalgia syndrome. Wow. The authors of this paper talk about copper and manganese and aluminum as toxic metals, toxic heavy metals. They're onto something. So we just showed that there's an excess in this condition. So now what if we could find another paper that showed that when they chelated copper, the situation seemed to improve? We like to do this. We like, when we're looking at essential minerals, we look at what deficiency causes, and then we look at, does supplementation reverse it? Well, what if we could do the exact opposite with vitamin A? With copper here, and we could show, oh, it's high in fibromyalgia, and then when they chelate it, let's see what happens. Now remember, one of the other names for fibromyalgia is myalgic. And Monica, yes, the inner circle is still happening. I just forgot to post it this week, so sorry. If there's somebody posts threads in we'll look at the thread. But yeah, for those of you who don't know, inner circle is, I do another about hour and a half, 2 hours of private Q&A after this for people who are in the Love Your Liver program and did the extra inner circle. They get to ask as many questions as they want there. That's strictly questions. So anyway, CFS/ME stands for myalgic encephalomyelitis. And whenever you see the word autoimmune, you should just know it means toxicity. Okay? A low molecular weight copper chelator crosses the blood-brain barrier and attenuates or reduces experimental autoimmune encephalomyelitis. Wait, so you mean they can give autoimmune conditions by poisoning the animals? And then they can give things that chelate toxic copper and it improves it. Wow. Now, if you want to go mess with this, I don't know exactly what so they're saying here we report that N-acetylcysteine amide, AD4. I don't know what that is. And I'm going to say it's not NAC, the stuff you think you want to buy over the counter. I don't think it's the same thing. Crosses the blood-brain barrier, chelates copper. And they're saying here, copper catalyzes free radical formation and prevents reactive oxygen species-induced activation of J and K, P38, and MMP9. In the myelin oligodendrocyte glycoprotein MOG-induced experimental autoimmune encephalomyelitis, EAE, a mouse model of MS, oral administration of AD4 drastically reduced the clinical signs, inflammation, MMP9 activity, and protected axons from demyelination damages. They give them encephalomyelitis and they give them a copper chelating agent and they see it get better. Copper is not an essential mineral, folks. Let's go. Let's find this now. This one is which one? So now we're going to go into, hold on, Joe. Am I going back to the other one, Joe? Let me see if this is the right one. This should be it. Yeah, this is it. The right one for that one. Now we're going back to the now we're going to start getting it. We're going to start getting into the essential nutrients now. Actually, you know what I didn't do? I forgot again to do iron. Let's just do this at the end of this one. So here we go. The relationship between serum trace element levels and clinical parameters in patients with fibromyalgia. So again, what we try to do, they already showed us zinc and magnesium were lower in fibro, right? And many of you already know that magnesium and fibro, like magnesium helps fibro. That's obvious in the research. We examine the association between serum trace elements and clinical findings such as number of sensitive tender points, severity of fatigue, and functional status in patients with fibromyalgia. This is a different study than the other one. Serum levels of zinc and magnesium were significantly decreased by fibromyalgia groups, whereas there was no considerable difference with selenium levels. We'll show a different research to that in a little bit. Association between serum zinc level and number of tender points, and that between fatigue and magnesium level was found as meaningful. You know, I talked about the recipe of the bile causing different symptom presentations. Well, they associate the zinc level with the number of tender points, and they associate the magnesium level with the level of fatigue. The recipe is important. According to the results of this study, it was asserted that serum magnesium and zinc levels may play an important role in the pathophysiology of fibromyalgia. Toxicities and deficiencies. Hey, what is the body's main mineral that it uses to fight off excessive copper? Oh, it's zinc. What is the main mineral that the body uses to fight off excess vitamin A toxicity? Oh, it's zinc. Zinc is pretty important. Wow, I just showed fibro connected to copper and vitamin A, and now I can show that there's a deficient zinc problem in fibromyalgia. What a weird coincidence. It's like all of it fits together just again and again. Lower serum zinc in chronic fatigue syndrome. Relationships to immune dysfunctions and relevance for the oxidative stress status in chronic fatigue syndrome. Actually, I want to answer something real quick. Nate asked, does anyone know why bananas can cause him headaches? Bananas, as certain fruits, including bananas, ripen, they actually do manufacture some formaldehyde. So if you can't eat pears, Nate, if you notice that pears cause you problems, pears are another kind of high formaldehyde fruit. So if you're going to eat those bananas and pears, try to eat them as less ripe as you're willing. That may help deal with that. You could also, if you take any charcoal, take some charcoal with them to soak that up. These are just things that you could try to do. This is why, folks, if you've ever eaten an overly ripe banana, let's just talk about the banana thing for a second. If you eat an overly ripe banana too brown, you ever notice you get like a stomach ache and maybe you don't feel good? That's the formaldehyde, okay? You want to know why the only thing we do with overly ripe bananas is cook them in banana bread? Because when you cook the overly ripe bananas, the formaldehyde in the heat of the oven off gases, and then you can eat the banana without getting an upset stomach and having formaldehyde symptoms. This all makes sense when we understand the chemistry that's going on here. Joe, freezing it does not fix the formaldehyde problem. Cooking it does. We just freeze them to stop them from ripening further and turning completely rotten. So I did put this one up, right? This present study examines serum zinc concentrations in patients with chronic fatigue syndrome versus normal volunteers. The results show that chronic fatigue syndrome is accompanied by a low serum zinc status and that the latter is related to signs of inflammation and defects in early T-cell activation pathways. So the other study said number of tender points goes along with the level of deficiency of zinc. They just said basically the same thing right there. The results of these reports suggest that some patients with CFS should be treated with specific antioxidants. Don't think of zinc as an antioxidant, including zinc supplements. Just ditch the whole antioxidant theory, the antioxidant theory of health, where they want you to take in more plant antioxidants, and they're like talking about selenium as an antioxidant, and just forget all of that garbage and realize that your detox system is an oxidative system. And if you take in too many plant antioxidants and you're trying to shove a bunch of antioxidants in there, you are slowing down your detox system. Well, what does the mainstream want you to do? Shove antioxidants and antioxidants down your cake hole. Do you think they're after your best health? Another one. And another one. Sorry, I had to do that. And another one. Zinc in fibromyalgia patients, relationship with body mass index and sleep quality. Hey, I think I've done threads and live streams on how vitamin A makes people fat, and copper makes people fat. Wow, what mineral fights against both of those things? Zinc. The present study aimed to determine zinc concentration in fibromyalgia patients as compared to healthy controls, as well as to identify the correlation of serum zinc concentration with the body mass index and sleep quality. Results: fibromyalgia group had significantly lower zinc concentration, higher body mass index, and lower sleep quality scores as compared to the healthy control group. Seems pretty straightforward. I'm just going to keep hammering this home. I do this mainly because there's those copper, the bioavailable copper loonies and the copper revolution loonies out there actively poisoning people with copper. And they tell people, be scared to death of zinc supplements. I'm sorry. They're wrong. If you're with those groups, you've been duped. You will hit the wall and things will end badly at some point. If you're still in that honeymoon phase where you're taking a crap ton of copper or eating high copper foods and you feel better, hey, you know what? Drug addicts on speedy drugs often feel like they're on top of the world until their world comes crashing down. It's the nature of toxins. They can feel good. Why do people do drugs? Because they feel good in the beginning. Does that mean crackheads love crack? It doesn't mean it's good for them. So yes, toxins have effects. The effect of zinc supplementation on fatigue among elderly community dwellers, a parallel clinical trial. So now we're just looking at fatigue in older people. Hey, do you want to know who has the highest levels of vitamin A and copper? Older people. Do older people generally feel good? That's a weird coincidence, isn't it? That they don't feel better, even though the vitamin A pushers and the copper pushers, we should assume that they feel better because I don't know if you know this, but levels as people age of copper and vitamin A go up. Why do people, you're just getting older. You're just falling apart. It's just the way it goes. No, it's not. Zinc supplementation significantly reduced fatigue and increased serum zinc level compared to the control group. So we just showed zinc deficiency causing problems, and now we're showing fatigue. We're talking about chronic fatigue syndrome here. And then the other studies on fibro showed less tender points with zinc. Consumption of zinc supplements for the elderly is recommended to overcome fatigue. Okay. Now, this one's not totally... It's two things. Effect of melatonin plus zinc supplementation on fatigue perception in myalgic encephalomyelitis / chronic fatigue syndrome, a randomized double-blind placebo-controlled trial. They got all the magic words in there. Myalgic encephalomyelitis, chronic fatigue syndrome, is a complex, multi-system, and profoundly debilitating condition, probably of multifactorial etiology. Oh, I don't know, like zinc deficiency, magnesium deficiency, selenium deficiency, nicotinic acid deficiency, copper toxicity, vitamin A toxicity, and all that toxic bile leaking into your blood. Multifactorial, yes. Wait, I think I highlighted the wrong part here. The most relevant results were the significant reduction in the perception of physical fatigue in the melatonin and zinc group at the final treatment follow-up versus placebo, and the significant improvement in the physical component summary at all follow-up visits in the experimental group, the group that got the melatonin and zinc. So they didn't see significant differences for zinc concentration among participants, but they got results. Oh, they got results, even though they didn't see big changes in the blood. They gave, I think I found this paper. It was 10 milligrams of zinc, probably a crappy form of zinc, like zinc gluconate or zinc sulfate. They use garbage forms of minerals in these studies, and they still get results. People are that deficient. 10 milligrams is like nothing. Okay, so there's zinc. I think we hammered that one home. Let's see, is this the zinc? Yeah, that's the zinc. Okay. So here, we're going to go into one of the big things I want to cover here. For those of you out there who are tired, anxious, depressed, maybe you're in the Love Your Liver program. If you are, you should be reading the potassium articles carefully and following them. Let me put it to you this way, folks. The quickest way you can change how you feel, quickest. I should probably add one to this list. The quickest things that you can fix in your day-to-day life to feel better. One would be potassium, fixing your potassium intake, whether that is through foods or whether that's through supplements. I think the article section in the Love Your Liver is like 6 articles on potassium alone. Topical magnesium approaches that work for you. Getting enough magnesium in your system will help you feel better. And then nicotinic acid, flush niacin, nothing else. I'm going to repeat it. Nothing else other than nicotinic acid. So if you come and ask me niacinamide or nicotinamide, are those okay? No, they're not. No. I could do it in like maybe more tones? No. Those are the 3 things that you could do, even low dose nicotinic acid. I got my ex-wife on like 50 milligrams and she's like, my energy and motivation are so much better. Okay. And no, it's not vitamin B3. It's nicotinic acid. It's an amino acid derived from tryptophan. It's not a B vitamin. It's another lie they told you. They just put it in there for ease or for confusion and gaslighting. And then they talk about all niacin forms as the same thing. They're not. So let's go into this. Involvement of... Oh, sure. Here, I'm going to type it in the chat. Okay. Nicotinic acid, aka flush niacin. Kelsey J is in the chat today. Kelsey is the one who she had the resilience to keep to know that it was a good thing and to continue working on getting me to understand it. And she did that. And I will be forever grateful to her for doing that. And she authored, I think, 5 of the 7 articles in the Love Your Liver guest articles, my first guest articles. And it's awesome. And it's going to change things very quickly. It's just going to accelerate the process. We've been coming at the same approach. Like when you learn that vitamin A inhibits the recycling of NAD, which is what nicotinic acid helps with. So we learn that vitamin A slows the very process of making more nicotinic acid. It all fits together. Everything we're finding as we go along in this fits together. So here we go. Identification of the involvement of potassium channels in fibromyalgia. Okay, let me help you understand why this is important. Vitamin A blocks potassium channels. Oh, weird. You mean potassium channels are involved in fibromyalgia? You don't say. I will tell you that copper depletes potassium. I will tell you that vitamin D supplements deplete potassium. And yes, I have research on all of these. I'm not going over that today. So there seems to be a lot of the things that I call toxic depleting potassium or blocking the very channels. So let's see. Potassium channels play a fundamental role in establishing and maintaining stability of a neuronal activity, the nerves, the pain. The large molecular diversity and distribution of potassium channels support involvement in a broad range of physiological functions. Let's see if I have anything more on this. Oh, come on now. Here we go. Let me find this part. Okay. In nociceptive pathways, nerve pain pathways, okay? Pain sensing pathways. Neuronal hyperexcitability leading to pain sensation has been associated with reduced function of potassium channels and loss of cellular control. Wait, so what if it was a toxin coming into the system out of the control of the system, like, oh, I don't know, vitamin A, that blocks the potassium channels and then causes increased pain? Do you remember all the 13-cis retinoic acid Accutane papers I just went over on muscle pain and joint pain? So let's just keep going on this. Potassium ion channel protein levels in patients with fibromyalgia syndrome. The purpose of this study was to measure the plasma levels of potassium ion channel proteins in fibromyalgia patients and healthy control subjects. The plasma levels of KCNH2 potassium channel fibromyalgia patients were found to be lower than those of the healthy control subjects. Gosh, I don't know if you took in a toxin that is it that vitamin A blocks potassium channels, or does it actually potentially destroy some of them? I mean, either way, you have scientists looking at the function of them probably at the end point. So they may not know whether they're getting destroyed or not. Or if they're doing a cell study, it may not be long enough for them to be destroyed. They may just see them not working as well. And then if you saw long-term in a full person or animal, they would be destroyed. So this one's going to be fun. This is a big paper. Update on the management of hypokalemia, that's low blood potassium, and goals for the lower potassium level in patients with cardiovascular disease. Oh, they're saying heart disease is associated with lower potassium levels. Wow, that's shocking. So what do I say here? Vitamin A toxicity blocks potassium channels. Copper depletes potassium. Vitamin D supplements deplete potassium. Wow, weird. And then vitamin A causes calcification. Vitamin D causes calcification, and copper will even increase calcification. What is the cause of heart disease? Calcification. If you look in the research, you'll see as hypercalcemia goes up, hypokalemia happens, low potassium. So the more your potassium goes up, the more your calcium goes up, the more your potassium goes down. Are you connecting it all? Hold on. Yes? Okay. So let me go find what I marked in here. Oh man, this thing. Glasp, if you're out there, you gotta fix this, man. This is the stuff I highlighted in here is not showing. This is a huge paper. And now I got to search through it. There. Okay, now it comes back. So this is just bonkers. This software is just bonkers. I swear. Where's the okay, hypokalemia symptoms and risks. In most of the cases, patients with mild hypokalemia are asymptomatic. It means the symptoms aren't obvious enough for doctors to say anything about it. But let's say, I don't know, ladies, you go into your doctor and you're like, I'm so tired. And they're like, it's all in your head. You're just getting older. And you're like, no, I'm not. So asymptomatic can be, this is modern medicine's gaslighting you of saying, it's all in your head, love. You're fine. Just go home and stop bothering the doctor shaman here. He has determined that you have no problems. We don't do that here. So if they're not asymptomatic, see, so they say mild or asymptomatic, but then they go into moderate and severe hypokalemia may cause neuromuscular, nerve to muscle weakness, fatigue. Okay, so now think, so they lead off with muscular weakness and fatigue. Eventually, so think of all the things that could happen in between here, in between where muscle weakness and fatigue starts, leading to ascending paralysis, acute respiratory failure. That's your breathing muscles are failing, okay? Due to diaphragmatic paralysis, rhabdomyolysis, your muscles are actually eating themselves away, basically. They're breaking down and spilling their contents into the blood. Gastrointestinal, nausea, vomiting, constipation, gastrointestinal hypomotility, ileus. So you've got all of it. Gut working overtime, gut working undertime. Renal, kidneys, metabolic acidosis, polyuria, peeing too often. How many of you out there pee too often and too much? Symptoms and cardiac rhythm abnormalities. If you have heart rhythm problems, palpitations, that kind of stuff, especially when you go to bed at night, you are probably copper toxic and definitely potassium deficient. Symptoms are usually reversible after the correction of the hypokalemia. What did I just tell you was one of the quickest things you could do to feel better? Oh, take potassium. Symptoms are usually reversible after the correction of the hypokalemia. Do you see how everything I say here is backed up in the research? And these are observations I made. I didn't look at the research and then assume it would work that way in people. I used it in people and I saw the results, and then now we have the research to back it up. Potassium is the thing. Now, I'm not saying to go out and overdose yourself on potassium. If you want my instructions on potassium, those are inside the Love Your Liver program. Food is preferred, but there's not a lot of high potassium foods that aren't high in vitamin A, which is a weird thing. Why, if vitamin A blocks potassium channels, is nature having to protect its plants by putting more potassium in high vitamin A foods? The toxin doesn't just not affect the plant. The plant has to protect itself too. So it's funny when people go, these foods are the most nutritious. And I go, no, those are some of the most toxic, and nature put in all that other stuff to protect the plant from it. Plants don't have livers. So, did I do this one yet? Academic. Okay. So there was one more thing in here that I wanted to go over, I believe. Let's see if it still has these things marked. No, this is not the paper. I think that's it on this one. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to say that one's it on this one. So now we have medication-induced hypokalemia. Super common. Okay, a potassium deficiency can impair metabolic functions, and medications cause hypokalemia through a variety of mechanisms. I just told you the other things that people don't realize deplete potassium. Daily intake of potassium is required because the body does not routinely conserve this electrolyte. This is really important. Oh, Hope commented, insulin will cause potassium deficiency. Yes, and on hair testing, a high calcium level on hair testing and a low potassium level is exactly what they call a hypothyroid pattern, a low thyroid function pattern. You want to know what vitamin D does on hair tests and what vitamin A does on hair tests over time? It raises calcium and lowers potassium. Wait. Oh, and copper will deplete potassium, and calcium and copper on the hair test tend to go up and down together. Wait. All those things are hypothyroid, hypothyroidism, and fibromyalgia. We already connected vitamin A and copper toxicity with fibromyalgia. Oh, it's all making sense now. Hypokalemia is one of the most commonly encountered electrolyte abnormalities in clinical practice. What do I tell you that people sleep on the most in terms of fixing their minerals? Figuring out your potassium. If you're one of those people out there who took 199 milligram potassium pill and it didn't do anything for you, let me help you. I've said this many times before. A banana has 500 milligrams of potassium. If you took one pill of potassium, or maybe even two, You took 100 to 200 milligrams of potassium. You took a big bite or two of a banana, and you're expecting the world to change. No, you didn't read my articles well enough. You should go back and do it better. Okay? Moderate symptoms of hypokalemia. Hey, fibro people, listen up. Cramping, malaise, fatigue, myalgia, muscle pain, weakness. You need potassium for your thyroid to run properly, and we're just connecting it all again. Okay? Moderate hypokalemia, as we said up there, is often associated with cramping, weakness, malaise, and myalgias. Musculoskeletal cramping and impaired muscle contraction, weakness, are other common manifestations of severe hypokalemia. Now listen to this. What did I just tell you? 2 of the 3 biggest things you could do to change how you feel the quickest. Potassium and topical magnesium. Let's go. Hypomagnesemia, low magnesium in the blood, which is present in more than 50% of cases of clinically significant hypokalemia. Oh, are they saying magnesium and potassium deficiencies come together? Is that what they're saying? I think it is. Contributes to the development of hypokalemia by reducing the intracellular potassium concentration and promoting renal potassium wasting. I'm going to put it to you this way, folks. You need potassium and you need magnesium, and you probably need more than you're getting right now, unless you've been doing my program for a while and you've figured it out. These things come together. If you've ever done like a magnesium bath or used topical magnesium and you didn't feel good, maybe you got palpitations, maybe you felt irritable, maybe you felt racy, what it's showing you, just like they said here, too much magnesium at once can affect your potassium situation. So you probably have a potassium deficiency that when you took the magnesium, it exposed it. It showed it more. So what do? We fix both of them. But if you have to fix the potassium one first, fix that one first. Oh, so remember how I said vitamin A raises calcium, vitamin D raises calcium, copper tends to raise calcium. Do you know what happens when you raise calcium? You deplete magnesium, you deplete potassium. You see how it's all fitting together again? So that's potassium. Pretty important, I'd say. Let's see, was this the potassium? No, that's zinc. That's potassium. Magnesium. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on magnesium. Most people know about magnesium and fibro. I just got this one paper, which is a review paper. Magnesium and fibromyalgia, a literature review. We're going to go down here to, let's see if GLASP did it right this time. Yes, there we go. There we go. It worked for once. Some studies showed, so remember, we like to see deficiencies in the condition. Not that we like to see it, but it's going to be there. We look for deficiencies in the condition, and then we look to see, does supplementing fix it, make it better? Some studies show decreased magnesium levels in several tissue compartments in fibro patients, along with a negative correlation between magnesium levels and clinical parameters of fibromyalgia. A negative correlation means that as magnesium went down, their symptoms went up. That's a negative correlation. They go in the opposite direction. Less magnesium, more pain. More magnesium, less pain. Bages et al. Reported significantly lower serum and erythrocyte red blood cell, RBC for those of you who are into that, magnesium levels in patients with fibromyalgia compared to controls, along with negative correlation between the magnesium levels and fibromyalgia symptoms, what we just said. In Kasim's study, serum magnesium levels were significantly lower in patients with fibromyalgia when compared to normal healthy individuals. Kim found that concentrations of magnesium in the hair of female patients with fibromyalgia are significantly lower than of controls, even after adjustment of potential confounding factors. Sender et al. Reported significantly decreased serum levels of magnesium by fibromyalgia groups, along with a meaningful association between magnesium level and fatigue in fibromyalgia patients. Did I put this one up yet? I'll just put it up again. We got more, don't worry. So that's the deficiency. So we established that there's a pattern of magnesium deficiency in fibromyalgia. Now, There's two things you need to know about magnesium. For most people, oral magnesium doesn't do enough to raise your systemic levels. Oral magnesium, in my opinion, is best used to help you poop, almost as like a mild laxative. People who've taken enough magnesium know it helps you poop. You take too much of it and you know it definitely helps you poop. Too much. Topical magnesium you absorb through the skin, is better at raising your systemic levels. It's just absorbed better. You absorb stuff amazingly through your skin. Oh, hey, while we're at it, for those of you who are in the Love Your Liver program, if you haven't been to the VIP store, so just so you know, if you're in the Love Your Liver program, you get access to our secret store with better discounts for Love Your Liver members. But back there, we have brought out our magnesium lotion, the Nutrition Detective Magnesium Lotion, which, because I take this stuff seriously, has twice as much magnesium chloride in it as other brands. It's pharmaceutical grade magnesium, so we're not dealing with all the extra garbage from under the ground. It's just magnesium chloride, which is what you want. You don't need all there's no benefit to all that extra trace mineral stuff. Okay? Anyway, there's a little bit of lactoferrin in it. It is an amazing lotion to begin with. Like, it's not like the other thick and heavy lotions. Here, I can't, let me go to, here, I'll do this on this computer. I will link it for those. So just so you all know, if you are not in the Love Your Liver program, you can't buy the magnesium lotion yet. We will be putting it out this, I think, very soon. But for those of you who are in the Love Your Liver program and you want to go see it, here, I'll show it to you on the screen. Let me go here. Here is a link to the VIP store product page. And let me bring this over here. Oh, you can show this now. Let me pull up my... There we go. So anyway, this is it. This stuff, just so you know how seriously I take this, it took 20 months and 18 formulations to get it right. I'm not some fly-by-night supplement guy who's just like, put whatever BS in it to make it so I can sell it. I was not going to put up with the thick and heavy and gross magnesium lotions that are out there. I put as much magnesium as I possibly could in it. There's in a whole bottle. People get concerned about the lactoferrin when they know how potent our lactoferrin is, which sadly we're sold out right now because of a supply chain issue of the lactoferrin supplement. We're working on that. But anyway, there's about less than 2 capsules worth of lactoferrin in the entire bottle. Okay, so there is a little bit of lactoferrin. If you want to go, I could just show you the research real quick on topical lactoferrin. Maybe I'll save that for another episode. But topical lactoferrin has a lot of really cool applications. So anyway, this is what I use for topical magnesium now. Daily. I have a bottle like on my nightstand. As soon as I wake up in the morning, I got a stiff low back. I put it on. Makes it go away. In terms of this on pain, that's been the biggest feedback we've gotten so far, and helping with sleep is a given. Okay. So back to magnesium and fibro. Let me see if they're going to have, okay, so here we go. Studies investigating the effect of magnesium on clinical parameters of fibromyalgia. So we've already established that fibromyalgia has deficiencies of magnesium. So what happens when they give magnesium? Bejas et al. Investigated the effect of magnesium citrate treatment on fibromyalgia symptoms. Joe, I think I already did this link. This is the link I was doing before. Anyway, I'll do it again just to make sure. Okay. Bejas, so magnesium citrate. All parameters were reevaluated after the 8 weeks of treatment. The number of tender points, tender point index, the fibromyalgia impact questionnaire, and Beck depression scores decreased significantly with the magnesium citrate treatment. I'm not saying that oral magnesium is useless. I'm saying topical works better. And I will stand on that. When I look at hair tests, folks, about maybe 1 in 20 people can get away with oral magnesium by itself to keep their magnesium levels where I want them. Most people need topical to fix their magnesium levels. But as you see here, oral magnesium does make a difference. That's how, folks, I want to tell you, with fibro, CFS, ME, and this is not a judgment, you are very toxic and very deficient. And you probably got that way through a combination of exposure to pharma cartel medications, jabs, pokies, exposure to environmental toxins, eating what you thought was healthy that was actually extremely toxic. Maybe you didn't used to eat healthy and you just ate like fast food garbage. The good news and the bad news here for fibromyalgia people: you are very toxic. You are very deficient in multiple things. That's the bad news. The good news is it can be fixed. It will take work. It's not just trying to take like a ribose supplement to boost your cellular energy production. No, it's fixing the toxicities and fixing the deficiencies. It is a marathon and not a sprint. It can be fixed for good. So that was citrate. That was oral citrate. Here we go. Engen performed a pilot study to collect preliminary data concerning the effect of transdermal magnesium on fibromyalgia patients through a patient questionnaires and survey in a fibro clinic at a tertiary medical center. Each participant was provided a spray bottle containing a transdermal magnesium chloride solution, basically magnesium oil, if you're familiar, and asked to apply 4 sprays per limb twice daily for 4 weeks. That's actually a solid dose. When I first saw this, I didn't do the math on it. Well, you got 4 limbs and 4 sprays each limb twice a day. So 4 times 4 times 2 is what, class? It's 32 sprays. 4 weeks. For any of you who remember what I recommend with most magnesium oil sprays, the typical like hairspray type pump, the finger pump, not the trigger. Those pump out a lot of juice. Those are different. I typically recommend 20 to 40 of sprays of magnesium oil with the normal hairspray kind of finger pump bottle. So I think Matthew Della Fera did equivalents to like droppers and drops and mills and stuff. Anyway. So let's see. What did they do? At baseline, week 2 and week 4, they completed the questionnaire. Here we go. The revised fibromyalgia impact questionnaire subscale and total scores were significantly improved at week 2 and at week 4. Quickest way you can feel better: fix your potassium, fix your magnesium, fix your nicotinic acid. 2 weeks, significant improvements. Some people can feel it in 1 day. Martinez Rodriguez et al. Conducted a randomized controlled trial to determine the effects of tryptophan. Hey, what do we make from tryptophan? An amino acid? Oh, we make nicotinic acid. Oh, wasn't that something else I brought up? We're going to go into that more in a second. Tryptophan and a magnesium-enriched Mediterranean diet on psychological variables and sleep in women with fibro. The authors concluded that tryptophan and magnesium-enriched Mediterranean diet improve body image satisfaction. They must have lost weight. Mood state, less depression, less anxiety, anxiety symptoms, and eating disorders, but do not modify sleep quality in women with fibromyalgia. So they didn't see much sleep change, but they saw all these other benefits. Imagine if you did, I don't know, like that zinc study and BMI and stuff like that. Okay. Was there anything else in this? There's, yeah, that's all for this one. Okay. And we did that one. So now let's go to, so if you guys remember, there was that one paper where they said selenium didn't help, or selenium wasn't low in fibromyalgia. Well, I didn't believe it. So I kept searching. Selenium status in fibromyalgia. The serum concentration of selenium, which is not a great measure, I like hair selenium much, much better, was measured in 68 consecutive patients, 9 male, 59 female. Fibro is mostly a female condition. Women are not as good at, women don't make as much bile as men. Women have more hormone cycles to deal with, which means their liver is loaded with more hormones. Women, because of estrogen, are better at making storage for toxins. It's just the nature of the beast. Ladies, don't be, it is what it is. You guys get to do the wonder of childbirth, but you get toxic faster, and it will affect your future children if you have them. So get clean as much as you can before you have more kids. I always suggest, if you're going to do the Love Your Liver program or work with me, do it for 6 months before you try to get pregnant. I take my job very seriously, and I don't want you detoxing hard while you're pregnant. So there was a statistical significant difference in serum selenium between control and patients. So 77 in control, 71 in fibro. That was a significant difference. Okay, so let's keep going. Did I put this one up? Yes, I did. Selenium and zinc status. Hey, in chronic myofascial pain, serum and erythrocyte concentrations, and food intake. 31 patients, chronic myofascial pain. In the group of patients with chronic myofascial pain, compared with the control group, showed a lower erythrocyte red blood cell concentration of selenium and zinc. In this study, a compromised food intake of zinc was observed in the majority of the subjects in both groups. Both groups didn't eat enough zinc. You're not getting enough zinc from food, folks. I'm sorry. You cannot. The food is depleted in zinc. If you're toxic, you're using up zinc faster than you would otherwise. And what was the last one? Oh, if you're already deficient, how are you going to catch up? So if the food's deficient and you want to detox uses up even more. So with all those things together, how in the world is food by itself going to give you enough of what you need? Now, I will tell you, for people who don't tolerate zinc picolinate, which is what we use, you just start doing the detox, and then your zinc status will slowly improve as you become less toxic. Because why? The toxic things use up your zinc. So if you have less of the toxins in you, you use up less of the zinc, and you can get further with less. Does that make sense? So the selenium intake was considered to be safe in 80% of the subjects in both groups. However, the likelihood of inadequate intake of this mineral was twice as high in group 1. That's the chronic myofascial pain group. 49.5% versus 24.4%. In the logistic regression analysis, the red blood cells concentration of zinc was associated with the presence of pain. In each additional 1 milligram of zinc per gram of hemoglobin, a reduction of 12.5% was observed in the risk of the individual having chronic myofascial pain. Boy, that's a correlation, isn't it? In this study, patients with chronic myofascial pain showed lower intracellular stores of zinc and selenium and inadequate food intake of these nutrients. Toxicities will deplete nutrients too. Okay, here we go. Involvement of TRPM2 and TRPV1 channels on hyperalgesia. That means you're like overly sensitive to pain. Apoptosis and oxidative stress in rat fibromyalgia model. Protective role of selenium. Wait, wrong one. Fibromyalgia results in pain. And then, so these authors obviously found enough research to say characterized by low selenium levels, excessive calcium influx. Oh, wait, who talks about excessive calcium? Oh, that's me. Reactive oxygen species production and acidic pH. So these are the abbreviations: sciatic nerve, dorsal root ganglion nerve. In conclusion, selenium treatment decreased the fibromyalgia-induced increase in hyperalgesia, hypersensitivity to pain, reactive oxygen species, apoptosis, and calcium entry, excessive calcium entry into cells through TRPM2 and TRPV1 in the sciatic nerve and dorsal root ganglion. So I guess selenium is involved, isn't it? Now, let's go into nicotinic acid real quick. I will not say the term vitamin B3. It is not a B vitamin. It is an amino acid. I will not say that it's okay for you to use any other form of niacin. We use nicotinic acid, aka flush niacin. If you don't want to take it, I don't suggest you take other forms. I would suggest you sack up and do a little tiny bit and work your way up. That's what I would suggest. The flush is not an allergic reaction. It is probably actually an accelerated detox reaction in your skin. And I go over this in my Mea Culpa article in the program. I have been through the flush. I didn't like it at the start. I was a little bit of a baby. I took it about 20 years ago and I babied out on it. I was like, I never want to do that again. And now that I know what it can do for me, take the flush any day. And it doesn't happen as much as you get less toxic and you do the flush more. So, what does nicotinic acid? So whenever they say niacin here, we're talking about nicotinic acid, aka flush niacin. If you're taking anything that says it's flush-free niacin or no flush niacin or niacinamide or nicotinamide riboside or NMN or what, no, we're not talking about any of that. We're not talking about anything other than nicotinic acid, aka flush niacin. Hopefully we're clear on that now. So if you go and you take niacinamide, there's somebody in the chat who did that on accident. And she came back and she said, I didn't feel good when I took that. I said, well, no joke. Don't do that again. I'm not going to say her name because she's great. She may reveal herself. No big deal. But that was before I came out with the articles and before I'm saying it here very clearly to you. Okay, so let's go here. Evaluation of clinical relationship of serum niacin and dopamine levels in patients with fibromyalgia syndrome. Results: niacin and dopamine levels of the patient group were significantly lower than those of control group. A very strong positive correlation was found between niacin and dopamine levels. Conclusion: serum niacin and dopamine levels decrease in fibro patients in relationship to the tender point numbers. It can be suggested that the levels of these two markers can be considered additional tools in the diagnosis of fibromyalgia syndrome. What about taking niacin? Okay. Niacin cures. Hold on, let me do that for you. This is their words, not mine. Niacin cures systemic NAD+ deficiency and improves muscle performance in adult onset mitochondrial myopathy. Now, somebody's going to say that this isn't specifically fibro. Okay. You just showed niacin was low in fibro. Okay, I'm going to make the jump here. If you don't want to make the jump with me, that's fine. There's more to it. So, mitochondrial myopathy patients have NAD deficiency in muscle and blood. Niacin is an efficient NAD+ booster in humans. You do not need to do anything else to increase your NAD+ production. Do not get an IV of NAD+. Do not take any of the fancy NAD boosters. Simple flush niacin, aka nicotinic acid, using the detailed articles so graciously written for us by Kelsey are in the Love Your Liver program. If you are not in the Love Your Liver program, please do not come asking me questions about how to dose nicotinic acid, how to take it, what to do about troubleshooting it, because if you don't know how to buffer it and you don't know how to go up, this is not stuff I'm going to put out on the general internet. Why? Because of Murphy's Law. Whatever can go wrong will go wrong. I put a little good information out on the internet. People take it and hang themselves with it. I refuse to do that. If you don't have the chutzpah to join the Love Your Liver program, you can try to join some free Telegram groups out there with people who don't really care about you. And, you know, maybe they'll give you good advice and maybe they won't. Now, Kelsey does have a niacin group of her own. And that is the only one I can recommend. Kelsey, if you want to plug that in the chat, go ahead. But yeah, Kelsey has a nicotinic acid group. She has maybe several Telegram groups. She's a little bit of a Telegram junkie. I think it's hilarious. She got me into Telegram now. So anyway, niacin improves muscle strength and fatty liver in mitochondrial myopathy. Oh yeah, Joe, if you want to put up the group, that's cool. Kelsey's group. Niacin boosts mitochondrial biogenesis and respiratory chain activity in humans. Huh. They mean nicotinic acid. Whenever you see doses like this, we administered an increasing dose of NAD plus booster niacin, a vitamin B3 form, up to 1,000 milligrams a day. They're talking about nicotinic acid. They're not talking about niacinamide. Blood NAD plus, which is necessary to run your detox pathways. Basically, just generalize it to that. You need it for ALDH. People are in the comments right now in the chat talking about how good the Telegram group is. So if you want to join it, that's cool. Awesome. You can also tag Kelsey for questions if you're in the Love Your Liver program and ask her questions. Okay. So, it boosted NAD in all subjects up to 8 times. And muscle NAD of patients reached the level of their controls. They took people with a myopathy and they brought their NAD plus up to the same as controls. Gosh, do you think they had less pain? Some patients showed anemia tendency while muscle strength and mitochondrial biogenesis increased in all subjects. In patients, muscle metabolome shifted towards controls and liver fat decreased even 50%. What I'm going to tell you is that nicotinic acid helps your liver to detox. Ignore the propaganda BS case studies where they try to tell you that nicotinic acid is toxic for your liver. Ignore it. I have taken, when they do high doses on rats in studies, I took an equivalent human dose of that for multiple days, if not a week or more. No problems whatsoever. I don't feel any need to take that much anymore, but I tested it for you. I tested the theory. Do I look like I'm falling apart, or am I getting more energetic as I go? So, what does nicotinic acid help with? Well, here they're talking about the myopathy again. Mitochondrial myopathy manifests typically as progressive weakness of the eye muscles. So they're talking about specifically this condition, weakness of eye muscles. Well, where does vitamin A accumulate? Oh, the eye. That's a weird coincidence. Generalized muscle weakness and fatigability. Gosh, that sounds like myalgic encephalomyelitis, right? Generalized muscle weakness and fatigability. So let's keep going. Here we determine the NAD metabolome and the effects of niacin on NAD plus levels and disease signs in mitochondrial myopathy patients and controls. Our main question was whether NAD plus levels are depleted in mitochondrial dysfunction, as mitochondria are regulating NAD plus concentrations, and if so, whether NAD plus deficiency can be restored in the tissues of the patients. We chose to use niacin nicotinic acid. If you do not know what you're buying, and it needs to say nicotinic acid on it or flush niacin, and even now we're starting to find, Kelsey and some other people are starting to find that the nicotinic acid supplies are getting tainted with niacinamide or nicotinamide. She can test them. She's testing them at home. We have a buying guide in the Love Your Liver program about stuff that has proven to be good so far. You go and you buy random nicotinic acid on the internet, even from some of these bulk companies, it may not be what you're trying to get. It may be tainted. We chose to use niacin because it has been used in large doses. Yeah, Joe. hold on, let me do it right here. I'll make, okay. Okay, everybody like play the trumpets now. Kelsey has now been added as a moderator to the YouTube chat. Okay, Kelsey. Oh wait, nice. We got the horn going. Excellent. Anyway, has been used in large doses to treat hypercholesterolemia patients for the past 50 years and has a proven safety record in humans. Has been used in large doses to treat hypercholesterolemia patients for the past 50 years and has a proven safety record in humans. So when there are people out there like Chris Masterjohn trying to talk smack about nicotinic acid, they are spreading propaganda, they are spreading BS. High doses for 50 years, and there's 8 case studies. Let me get my number right. 8. I can do it. 8 case studies where they were all taking multiple pharma meds, and then they tried to say it was the nicotinic acid. Give me a break. Hope's not a moderator? Oh, Welsh. Shoot. I'm feeling froggy today. Here we go. Hope you're a moderator now. Wait, play the horn again. There we go. Okay. There we go. And Joe. Now there we go. Oh, you're on too, Joe. Okay, cool. So we got, yes, it's a party today. Anyway, let's go down here. Niacin is well tolerated. I'm just going to hit the highlights here. Niacin is well tolerated by study subjects. I want you to pay attention here. All the subjects were supplemented with a slowly increasing dose of niacin. Doc, I don't know why. When I just started it, like what they did in the studies, like 1,500 milligrams or 3,000, boy, that flush was like so intense, and I don't want to do that again. You shouldn't have done it in the first place. So get over it and let's do it right. With a slowly increasing dose of niacin from 250 milligrams a day up to 750 or 1,000 milligrams a day for 4 months. And we continued the follow-up of treatment effect for up to 10 months in patients. So they took it for 4 months and they followed them for 10 months. Known niacin side effects, hot flushes, and tingling sensation of extremities were experienced by all study subjects when the dose exceeded 500 milligrams a day. Okay. These symptoms were, however, ameliorated. That means made better on continued use. The subjects also reported flatulence, gastrointestinal irritation, and skin drying. Wait. We buffer our niacin. We don't just give straight nicotinic acid once you get to doses over 150 to 200 milligrams. Kelsey talks about buffering the niacin, making mineral nicotinates in the program. So when you see flatulence or gastrointestinal irritation, yes, nicotinic acid could make your stomach a little more acidic in a too much way. So what do? We buffer it. We fix the problems. Kelsey already figured this out. Kelsey, like I messed myself up with vitamin A and toxicity in the past. Kelsey messed herself up taking big doses of nicotinic acid. And then she figured out, because she's as smart as she figured out the buffering. So the buffering solves the digestive issues. Now the dry skin thing, as you take the niacin longer, that goes away. Okay. One male patient reported transiently enhanced signs of gout. So he was detoxing harder. He was pushing vitamin A out. Vitamin A increases uric acid. Vitamin A causes gout. It's a poison on the way in. It's a poison on the way out. So yes, these things can happen. It also could be called retracing or a recurrence of old symptoms that is part of the healing process. 2 control subjects discontinued the study after 2 months due to gastrointestinal irritation. The remaining participants tolerated niacin well. Did I just tell you about buffering it? Don't make the mistakes that the researchers and their subjects had to make because they don't know better. Which one? This one, Joe? Did I not give you this last URL? Here we go. There's that one. And then there's this one. And then we'll just put them all. We'll just have a link party. Okay. So we know that these patients have disturbed NAD plus metabolism. Niacin restores NAD concentrations. Niacin improves body composition. Oh my goodness. Folks, if you are one of the like 95% of people who is an overtype and you easily gain weight, as you get less toxic, you can lose weight much more easily. And I can absolutely say that this is true. I am leaner than I used to be without having to try, and vascularity, like my blood, the veins sticking in my, my arm veins and stuff like that, is absolutely more. Yeah. Niacin's effect on lipoproteins like cholesterol and lipoprotein A and erythropoiesis, making new red blood cells, like fixing anemia. Anemia is a liver problem. I mean, if you're a vegan and you're not eating any iron, then you might have an iron deficiency. But if you're eating red meat on a regular basis and you have anemia, it's a liver problem. Niacin increases muscle strength. Well, that sounds good. Niacin boosts mitochondrial biogenesis, more mitochondria. Hey, niacin regularizes the muscle metabolism in this condition. Niacin downregulates mTOR signaling pathways. There we go. Now, this last one, I want to show you the scam, the gaslighting, niacin nicotinic acid is good for you, but we're going to tell you not to take any more because we got to keep the scary narrative going. This is from let me get the link. Did I do the link already? Well, Monica, lean and mean. I wouldn't say I'm lean and mean. I mean, I'm not mean. I am getting leaner, though. It's pretty cool. So here's the paper. Scientific opinion by the European Food Safety Authority. Scientific opinion on the substantiation of health claims related to niacin and reduction of tiredness and fatigue. Chronic fatigue syndrome. Contribution to normal energy yielding metabolism. That would be good. Contribution to normal psychological functions. That's even better. Maintenance of normal blood flow. Notice how I mentioned the vascularity and the blood vessels. And maintenance of normal skin and mucous membranes pursuant to Article 13.1 of Regulation blah, 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 blah. Reduction of tiredness and fatigue. The claimed effect is, quote, vitamin mineral supplementation to reduce fatigue and tiredness in situations of inadequate micronutrient status, end quote. The target population is assumed to be the general population. The panel considers that reduction of tiredness and fatigue is a beneficial physiological effect. The clinical features of pellagra are dermatitis. I already knew the ones that it was. Why is this not zooming? Oh my goodness. Hello. How annoying is that? There we go. That was weird. I was hitting the text downsize button and then it did this. So pellagra is niacin nicotinic acid deficiency. Okay, so what are they about to say here? The clinical features of pellagra, niacin deficiency, are dermatitis, skin issues, diarrhea, and dementia. Symptoms also include depression, apathy, headache, fatigue, and loss of memory. Hey, brain fog is a fibro thing too, isn't it? Which would be like loss of memory. You can't think very well to remember things. Hard, getting things from your brain to your mouth, stuff like that. The panel concludes that a cause and effect relationship. The panel concludes that a cause and effect relationship has been established between the dietary intake of niacin and the reduction of tiredness and fatigue. Let me repeat that. What were one of the three things that I said could help you feel better the fastest on the Love Your Liver program? Nicotinic acid and potassium and magnesium. The panel concludes that a cause and effect, are we talking root cause here, folks? Yes. A cause and effect relationship has been established between the dietary intake of niacin and the reduction of tiredness and fatigue. However, this is like imagine the whiny European bureaucrat voice here. However, the evidence provided does not establish that inadequate intake of niacin leading to tiredness and fatigue occurs in the general EU population. Okay. This is when that at the end of it, they just drop the turd in the punch bowl. That's what they try to do. They're like, it really works. It really works, but yeah, we think everybody's doing fine. You're probably not tired. It's all in your head. You don't need any more niacin. You're just, it's all in your head. Come on, people. So, which one is this? I think we're done. I think that's all the research I was going to go over today. So, let me open up a new window so I can answer questions. Okay, Joe. Actually, up here. Actually, that's not correct. I can just... The people who cannot bear to be told they're toxic and deficient are the people who will be like, but actually, I am here to help you folks. I am not here to blow smoke up your butt. Why do we not work on the root causes, the toxicities and the deficiencies that science has shown to be connected with the condition? And when you correct the deficiencies, you see the problem get better. Like when they gave the copper chelator, you see the problem get better. Joe, you don't need to worry about that screen. Let me find the super chats. Okay, M&M Professional Window Cleaning. Thank you for the super chat. Are there any concerns in using shaving creams or gels for a man shaving? This is the reality that people hate when I bring up. Okay. Some part of everything you put on your skin is absorbed directly into your bloodstream. They've shown this with sunscreens. Like every big negative compound that they know in sunscreen, they put it on the skin and 24 hours later, they measured the blood for it and they found all of them in the blood. What have I found to be the best way to raise magnesium levels? Transdermal, topical, through the skin. Our skin is amazing at absorbing things for better or worse. If you're out there thinking, well, my skin just won't absorb the bad stuff and it'll only absorb the good stuff, delusional. It's not true. You will absorb toxic stuff through your skin just like anything else, just like you'll absorb toxic stuff through your gut. Don't make up some fantasy land, and this is not just at you, Eminem. Don't make up some fantasy land that your body is protecting itself from the outside world. We are like sponges. This is why the very first thing that we have to do in our program is stop the intoxing. We have to reduce the toxins coming in, because the more toxins you have in you, the slower your detox system runs. It's like it gets damaged. It's like the dirtier your car engine gets, the worse it runs. It makes sense, doesn't it? The older your car gets, generally the dirtier it gets, unless you're maintaining it and cleaning it, right? So if we absorb some of everything we put on our skin for better or worse, the general rule that especially the ladies hate when I bring this up is that if you wouldn't eat it, don't put it on your skin. If you wouldn't eat it, don't put it on your skin. So if you're looking at labels, now I can tell you there will be some, like, I'll just use an example. In the magnesium lotion, there's some names of fatty esters that people might look at and be like, wait, where did that come from? You see the word olivate. Well, it's from olive oil. It's a fatty acid derived from olive oil. And it can help with emulsification. It can help with preservatives. I don't know if you know this, but if you don't put preservatives in lotion, they go moldy. Can't be selling moldy lotion. Why do you think there was 18 formulations? Because I didn't want to put stuff in it, but I had to. So, but these are just derivatives. Some of them are derivatives of coconut oil. Some of them are derivatives of olive oil. Kind of had to do it just because of the nature of selling things to people. but I made sure to check the safety on them as much as I possibly could. And they're derived from oils that, people would I eat coconut oil and olive oil? Yeah, I would. I don't choose them first. I don't use them, but would I eat them? Yes. So will I put that on my skin? Yes. Lactoferrin in the magnesium lotion. Would I eat that? Yes. I eat it every day I can. Would I put magnesium chloride on my skin? Yes. Would I put water on my skin? Yes. So one thing you can do, so shaving cream, shaving gels, if you're buying like mainstream stuff and you look at all the chemical garbage in there, I wouldn't eat that. I would not spray a shaving cream or a shaving gel generally in my mouth and eat it. Now, one thing that you can experiment with. Now, I don't, as you can tell, I'm not like super coarse, like super heavy beard guy. I really hate shaving. That's part of why when I talked to a guy and he's like, you should grow a beard. And I was like, I would love to not shave. So I got the beard trimmers and now I don't have to shave much. If you choose to shave, you can use things like soap, heavy soap, or you can put like hair conditioner down. It doesn't have to be a shaving cream or a shaving gel. You could probably find recipes on the internet. Maybe somebody in the Love Your Liver program has put something together, or maybe one of the women on the Love Your Liver program made kind of like a shaving lotion, natural one for her leg shaving or something like that. I bet there's people in there who have done that. Personally, I am trying to put as little stuff on my skin as possible, because then I just minimize. I mean, obviously, if I'm going to eat something, I think about, would I put it in my mouth or not? But when we tend to give easy passes to things we put on our skin because we just don't think it's absorbing, we don't realize it, or we just deny it, and we're just like, no, it's probably fine. So I would just look at the ingredients in there. I know, like, I used to use, when I did use a shaving lotion, I got one from it was Trader Joe's, and it was, now I look at it, it was like mango something, but it was, the ingredients on it were pretty good. That's why I used it, and I liked it well enough. I don't use it anymore, and I would use something different now. But and some people, lotion, you put a lotion very thick. You're not trying to rub it into the skin to soak up. You're trying to put it on there so it's like a shaving cream. You can use lotion, a hand lotion or something like that, as a shaving cream. You may find more clean avenues that way. So, yeah. Okay. So then we go. So I hope that answers that question. Now, Ramon says, can you talk about histamines and how it happens and how to avoid it, if we should, in relationship to what we try to do and not do here in the context of vitamin A? Histamines, this all fits together. First, I think I've done this before, but let me find it. We're going to do a couple connecting. Wait, let's do allergy. Asthma and allergy in children. So I want to show you guys this so you can maybe help not make your kids or your grandkids have allergies like all the Weston Price people are doing with all their asthmatic and allergic kids, because they force feed them vitamin A all day long. So let's go into this. Eat your liver, honey. No, don't. This is connecting childhood exposure to vitamin A with allergies and asthma. So, early infant multivitamin supplementation is associated with increased risk for food allergy and asthma. I'm telling you right now, multivitamins are at least half full of toxic garbage. At least half, if not probably 3/4. They're going to have, wait, what do we talk about here? Not to take vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, copper, manganese. It's going to have niacinamide in it, which you don't want. It's going to have all the other B vitamins, which you probably don't need. So, early vitamin supplementation, increased risk for asthma in Black children and food allergies in exclusively formula-fed children. Wow, they fortify it. As I say here, we talked about vitamin A, D, and copper. Now, effects of early intake of fruit or vegetables in relation to later asthma and allergic sensitization in school-age children. Well, gosh, according to the mainstream narrative, shouldn't more fruits and vegetables make the kids healthier? Whereas allergic sensitization at school age seemed to increase with extra vitamin and cod liver oil supplements during infancy. Wow, cod liver oil giving kids more allergies and asthma. Somebody go alert Weston Price. Vitamins. Like Flintstones, like I grew up on, that I'm sure was the start of my health decline. Oral supplements. So this is an Australian study. The role of latitude, ultraviolet radiation exposure, and vitamin D in childhood asthma and hay fever. An Australian multi-center study. Well, they got plenty of sun down there, don't they? Oral supplementation with cod liver oil in childhood increased the odds of a history of having both asthma and hay fever allergies. Why do they keep finding the same thing in different countries? Vitamin A and D intake in pregnancy, infant supplementation, and asthma development, the Norwegian mother and child cohort. Wow, they warn you here. Western diets may provide excess vitamin A, which is potentially toxic and could adversely affect respiratory health. The aim of this study was to examine child asthma at age 7 years in relation to maternal motherly intake of vitamins A and D during pregnancy. These kids are 7 years old by the time they're checking on this, and they're looking at how much vitamin A and D was there in pregnancy. Do you understand that this is a chronic toxicity issue they're about to show you? Infant supplementation with these vitamins and their potential interaction. We studied 61,676 school-age children from the Norwegian mother and child cohort with data on maternal total food and supplement nutrient intake in pregnancy, food frequency questionnaire validated against biomarkers, food frequency questionnaire validated against biomarkers like lab tests, and infant supplement use at age 6 months. Asthma increased according to maternal intake of total vitamin A in the highest compared with the lowest quintile. So the people who got the most vitamin A had the most asthma. They're talking about during pregnancy. So I believe they're talking about the children who had the highest rates of asthma. Their mothers took in the highest. Was that vitamin D? Vitamin A during pregnancy. And what does vitamin A do in the body? It tends to, you see it lower vitamin D levels. So wow, they found decrease for total vitamin D. You don't eat vitamin D. You're not supposed to eat vitamin D. And just because people can live in Norway doesn't mean that humans were designed to live there. We don't have hair so we can absorb the sun through our skin. That doesn't mean just because you can live somewhere, you should. If you live somewhere dreary and dark and cloudy and rainy, and you're wondering why everybody around you is depressed all the time, just because we can live there doesn't mean we should. I'm sorry, this is just the way it is. Excess vitamin A over 2.5 times the recommended intake during pregnancy was associated with increased risk of asthma in the children at 7 years old. Well, here's an interesting statement. Excess vitamin A also accumulates in the lung. Can you say coof? We found no indication that antioxidant properties of beta-carotene protect against asthma. The effect of beta-carotene was weaker, but in the same direction as retinol. We observed this effect of asthma for intakes that were greater than or equal to 2.5 times the recommended dose, which is below the tolerable upper intake level for retinol of 3,000 micrograms per day during pregnancy. So please stop poisoning your children. Now, so histamine, allergies, mast cell problems. Vitamin A. alcohol, but especially it's an aldehyde. The more toxic we get in aldehydes, the slower and the more used up the pieces of ALDH become, right? So the more you use something, the more wear and tear it gets, and the more nutrient maintenance you need for it. Does that make sense? Right? You want to run an engine hot all day, you better be putting in the gas, you better be putting in the oil, you better be doing all the things to maintain it, and it's still going to put wear and tear on the machine. Your ALDH is your most important detox enzyme. Now, vitamin A, retinaldehyde. So retinaldehyde goes through ALDH. Ramon, we've talked here about alcohol before. Ethanol turns into acetaldehyde. That goes through ALDH. Histamine turns into an aldehyde, which then goes through ALDH. I'm telling you that as you become more toxic from any and all avenues that you or anybody else exposes them to, it kind of uses up your detox system. It uses up the nutrients. It uses up the energy, like the nicotinic acid. And if you didn't know, Ramon, this would be important to potentially help you, this is a subject Ramon's brought up multiple times on the live stream, and we're all trying to help. Nicotinic acid was the 11th step of Alcoholics Anonymous. Did you know that? They took it out for political reasons. Political reasons? You mean like big pharma reasons? Because just imagine if you had, I talked about this before too, right? A mental approach to help people quit one of the most toxic and addictive things in our society today. You have a mental approach to help it, a faith-based mental approach, and you had a chemical approach to help it. And I can tell you, as you get on the nicotinic acid, your cravings for bad things go away. Well, they took out the part that was both the easiest to do and potentially just as powerful as the mental part. Do you think that people who consume lots of alcohol would tend to increase pharma cartel profits? I would say so. Yes, they're going to have a lot more health issues. So let's take out the very thing that runs detox and would make their cravings less. And we'll call it political. Well, pharma never does anything in politics, do they? Never. They don't use mafia tactics. That's not why they've gotten the biggest fines in the history of the world for using criminal mafia-style tactics to get what they want. Never. Not them. But what I'm getting at is histamine's an aldehyde, ALDH. Vitamin A is an aldehyde. Acetaldehyde from alcohol is an aldehyde. What do we need to run aldehyde dehydrogenase? We need multiple things. You need enough selenium. You need enough molybdenum. You need enough nicotinic acid. That's what you need. So let's go in. Let's go. Let me go find it. I'll go. Joe, you don't need to worry about sharing the screen for a second. Let me go find this. Let me go find, what am I looking for? Let me get into the group. Kelsey, if you're there, if you want to post any of the mast cell papers, Kelsey has just tons of stuff. Sometimes this Telegram search engine sucks. Anyway, here I'll just do it on my own. Here, we'll just knock that down. Let's go histamine, niacin, PubMed. So I'm going to show you right now why. This is going to answer your question. And Rustica, what's the deal with niacinamide? I was always told it's great and doesn't cause flush. Do not use it. You have too much of it. Let me tell you about who likes niacinamide. It's what they fortify flour with. So do you trust it? Do you want more of it? You don't. What kind of niacin do they put in every multivitamin supplement and almost every vitamin B3 supplement that's out there? They put niacinamide in it. Are they your friends? They are not. Niacinamide is garbage, and you should throw it in the trash. You do not need any more of it. You need to counter it with nicotinic acid. So here I pulled up this paper. Excess nicotinamide increases plasma serotonin and histamine levels. If you know anything about this, wait, excess nicotinamide raises histamine levels. Dr. Smith, you're saying no way in heck should you be taking niacinamide, nicotinamide, because it will make things worse. Look no further. Increasing your serotonin is not always a good thing, folks. There's serotonin syndrome, really bad. I don't think, if you believe modern science has neurotransmitters figured out, they don't. So we do not use niacinamide or nicotinamide. We do not. You do not try to put that in the system. So, and a lot of people will try to badmouth nicotinic acid by using research from nicotinamide or niacinamide. It's dishonest. Either they don't know what they're doing or they're being dishonest. So let's see. Oh, histamine intolerance arises in the gut. Gosh, what else is in the gut? Wait. See, it doesn't take long. So this is where the different recipes of bile can make things better or worse. Bile acid increases expression of the histamine-producing enzyme histidine decarboxylase in gastric cells. Gastric cells. That's your stomach. You're not supposed to have bile in your stomach. You're not supposed to have bile in your stomach. Bile acid increases expression of the histamine-producing enzyme histidine decarboxylase in gastric cells. What a crap show this is. You don't want bile in your stomach, and it makes more histamine when it does go there. Gosh, wonder why acid reflux is so uncomfortable. So, here we show that bile acid increased the expression of HDC, which is the rate-limiting enzyme of the histamine production pathway, so you can make more histamine. Now, you need, so that was we were searching for histamine and bile. So we've just connected histamine to bile. Oh, histamine intolerance originates in the gut. Where's the first place your liver dumps bile? Into your intestine. If the bile goes back up into your stomach, we just showed that it can make more histamine. Let's see, do they even mention bile in here? No, not much in here. Most of the time, they don't even think about bile. Even NDs hardly think about bile. They're just like, oh no, take this supplement to thin out your bile. Oh wow, we're way over. Okay. So now if you're sensitive to histamine, you may need to reduce it in your diet for now. As we let's see if we can see. Here's the problem with searching for nicotinic acid in the research is you get a bunch of stuff on nicotine. Those are receptors. Yeah, see, nicotine. We don't want nicotine. So anyway, or let me just do this. Let me do this real quick. Let me do... This is not... It's TRPV2. Kelsey will get that to me later. But anyway, just know... the ALDH part of histamine and vitamin A and alcohol, it's all connected. So I mean, okay, let's talk about histamine and alcohol. From my own life, I used to watch my father, who I know was my father died of prostate cancer at 68. He was a dentist, so he was exposed to tons of toxicity. He did love to throw them back. He, my grandpa on his side was like raging alcoholic. So my dad growing up was exposed to a lot of that. So anyway, I used to watch my dad. Let's say it's Friday night, work's done. He would come home, try to relax. There was no sniffling or allergy symptoms. I used to watch him start drinking a glass of white wine as like his chill out drink. I could just hear the sniffling and the snot and the sneezing start. And I was sitting there, even as a young 20-something, going, Dad, how are you not catching this pattern? Like every time you start, he absolutely despised his allergies. He was so angry at them. And I could watch them just happen when he drank wine. Now, what do American wines have? I mean, there's the alcohol, right, which is going to make aldehydes. There's also the sulfites in wine, whether they're naturally occurring or whether they're added. In America, we add sulfites to like all the wine. Sulfur slows down your ALDH. Sulfur slows down your ALDH, and you're taking in something, alcohol, that turns into aldehydes, which then uses up your ALDH. Do you see the bad connection here? So it all makes sense when you know what's going on, but histamine problems are toxicity problems and deficiency problems. I can tell you, I'll tell you, ever since I was having some weird times recently where I was waking up in the morning and have a couple sneezes. It was weird. It's just when I woke up. I've actually been thinking about that lately. I went, oh, all my sneezes like are basically gone. Then I just noticed that after I've been doing the nicotinic acid for a while. ALDH and allergies and aldehydes. This is the connection. So if you can reduce your intake of aldehydes in, like no alcohol, less vitamin A. I have an article in the Love Your Liver program about formaldehyde and methanol. You want to avoid that too. And then, avoiding really smelly spices and herbs and stuff like vanillin is an aldehyde. Cinnamaldehyde from cinnamon is an aldehyde. Cuminaldehyde from cumin is an aldehyde. Citraldehyde from like citrus peel is an aldehyde. If you're using essential oils, you're just basically snorting aldehydes. I mean, it's just everywhere. So we reduce the aldehydes in. So we reduce the toxin exposure. We facilitate the removal of said toxins via ALDH. And that's by giving it the nutrients that it needs to run, like selenium, like molybdenum, like NAD from nicotinic acid. Not taking NAD supplements, nicotinic acid. And then to get rid of those aldehydes, actually, I did that whole episode on the live stream about breathing properly to get rid of aldehydes. So you might want to go back in the live stream and look at the breathing thing, because your breath is another way you can detox aldehydes, because those are gaseous. If they sit in your lungs too long, they irritate the heck out of your lungs. Remember how I just showed you vitamin A accumulates in your lungs? Vitamin A turns into retinaldehyde. You could get rid of retinaldehyde through your lungs if you're breathing properly. If you're not breathing properly, it gets stuck there and it irritates the heck out of them. And I've shown that. I showed that in that episode. And then ALDH, when it's slow, you don't make as much bile. I've just figured this out from looking at all the studies and just connecting things that would slow ALDH and then other things that would slow down bile, and it just all fit together. Slowing down ALDH will slow down bile production. If you don't make enough bile, you're not going to detox well. You need NAD to run ALDH. NAD from nicotinic acid will increase your bile production, which will help you detox faster, which shows up in the study where they gave the mice nicotinic acid, and then they measured lower vitamin A in their liver afterwards. So that's that. Let me get to that next. So, and Rustica, I got to that one. Don't do niacinamide. Okay, Eve, let me get to your question. On the Love Your Liver program, stop taking potassium and magnesium topically and orally due to weird heart and chest cramping. Been off it for a week and feel better on none. What say you? This is very simple. I don't know what your exact chemical situation is inside your body, and I can't, and no doctor can know this. This is why we don't do protocols, right? We don't do protocols because every person is different. And if you take magnesium, there's probably something that, well, remember, whenever you take a mineral supplement, there's two parts to it. There's the mineral, potassium or magnesium, and then there's what it's bound to. Now, if you were doing topical magnesium and potassium, you may have been doing both of those as chlorides. Okay, some people are sensitive to chlorides. So it may not be the potassium, it may not be the magnesium, it could be the chloride. And you don't know this until you try other sources, whether that's food or whether that's different sources of potassium or magnesium that are bound to different things. So there's that. There's just, you may not, sometimes it's like we think that when we put in certain minerals, if you have a bottleneck in your detox, which ALDH is the big bottleneck for almost everybody. If you have a bottleneck in your detox and you start feeding the bottleneck, so you're like speeding things up over here and they're getting caught in the bottleneck, so they're building up behind it, like aldehydes to ALDH. ALDH is like the bottleneck, right? And if you're trying to put alcohols in there or aldehydes in there and they're not processing, then they just build up and back up into your system. So if you speed up detox in front of a bottleneck, you can then start building up toxic stuff before the bottleneck. ALDH, the big thing that I believe, I was always looking for something to blow open ALDH. Selenium, the stuff I was doing up to this point was working. We are getting people better, but there was something that I felt like was missing. And then Kelsey came along with the nicotinic acid, and that seems to be blowing it all apart in a good way. So what do we do here? We follow the complex treatment algorithm, which is, doc, it hurts when I do this. Then don't do that. I just had somebody tell me that most people, I'm sorry, not most, some people, when they take vitamin K, they say it helps them sleep. Okay. I just had somebody on Twitter today say, I tried taking vitamin K. My husband says it helps him sleep. And she's like, but it keeps me wide awake. I can't sleep on it. And I'm like, that's interesting. That's valid. That's your experience of it. So what do we do? Basically the same thing I'm saying here. It hurts when I do this. Then don't do that. We will never know the mechanism. And we don't do the Naxalt arguments, the not all X are like that. Different people are different. We use the saying, anything can cause anything. And so if one person gets insomnia from vitamin K and some people, their sleep improves and most people don't notice any change on their sleep with vitamin K, it's all valid. What I do here is I teach people how to listen to their bodies and follow the signals that they're given. So if vitamin K if potassium and magnesium, we can then parse it out. We can then say, well, is it the potassium? If you eat 3 bananas in a sitting, do you get problems? Because that would be 1,500 milligrams of potassium. If you're like, no, I could eat 3 bananas just fine. I can eat a pound of potatoes just fine. I don't get palpitations or problems. It's probably not the potassium then. It may be what it's bound to. It may be a chloride issue. In the buffering article on the nicotinic acid section, we talk about how you can even make potassium nicotinate or magnesium nicotinate or sodium nicotinate, and you can bind electrolytes to the niacin that you take, which is the buffering agent. So it's so awesome. You get the nicotinic acid as nicotinate. That's when it's bound to something. You get the nicotinic acid. You can pick and choose your electrolytes to increase, and then you've buffered it so it's not going to cause the digestive symptoms that we mentioned in that study. So you're going to have to either parse it out, different forms, different approaches, try foods, see if food potassium causes any issues. Otherwise, it may just be if you tend to be a very sensitive person, as we get people better, they become less sensitive because I think we fix the bottlenecks. The bottlenecks are why people are sensitive. So sometimes it's just time. We just it's like the system's all gunked up and we got to clean out the gunk before we can run the engine really hard. So in terms of a reason for that, can't give you a mechanism, but you listen to your body. And if that's what it does for you, you may want to ask in the program about other people who may have had this. Some people might add a little sodium to the mix and then all of a sudden everything balances out. We never know this until we try. But yeah, you may just want to ask in the Love Your Liver program where you got like 2,000 plus people that you could potentially bounce your experiences off of. And there's bound to be somebody out there who's had the same thing. So hope that helps. So then let me see. I think there was somebody else there. Oh, Zen Dog. Hello. I wonder if my local made goat milk soap has vitamin A that I absorb. I mean, the thing about soap is it's not on your skin that much for that long. I mean, if you're putting it on and leaving it on, that's a different story. But if you're just, soaping up and then rinsing off, it's not on your skin that much. I'm going to put out a thing here for Kelsey to get that. Kelsey's going to make a charcoal, and I'm hoping we can put some magnesium in its soap. And then Kelsey will be selling that. And I'll be directing people to that. I'm using an early version of her charcoal soap right now, and I want to figure out how to get magnesium in it. And then hopefully she can offer that to the Love Your Liver people as well. It's a really nice soap. My son commented the other day that he really liked it. So I would rather personally be using something like charcoal soap that could draw things out and then be rinsed off rather than worry about using a goat milk soap where you could be absorbing toxic vitamin A into your skin. And goat milk is something like, if I recall correctly, 4 times higher in vitamin A than cow's milk. So yeah, not a great choice. I don't know if the vitamin A is left in the soap. I can't say, but I'd rather not. How many people, why are people doing this? My goodness. I swear every time I'm on a live stream, like my phone just absolutely blows up. I tell people like it's Monday. Don't come at me on Mondays. And of course, what does my ex-wife do? All Monday. She just can't leave me alone. So I think that's it. That's all the super chats. I got to get to the inner circle. For you inner circle people, sorry I didn't post the comment thread this last week. It was kind of crazy. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed that. If you have fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue syndrome or myalgic encephalomyelitis, we're here to help. You can find us. So my main website, nutritiondetective.com. If you would want to join the Love Your Liver program, which is a do-it-yourself program, $99 a year. I'll save you thousands of dollars on other wasted garbage. That's at members.nutritiondetective.com. Then if you want to find me on Twitter, I'm at NutriDetect on Twitter. That's where I post a lot of my science and get into a little bit of, arguing that Twitter is. You can find me on Instagram under Nutrition Detective and Facebook under Nutrition Detective. And there's probably other people speaking highly and poorly of me on the internet at any one point. So make sure, folks, we're getting so close to 6,000 subscribers. So please make sure to share and like the video and comment in the live chat, comment in the comments afterwards. But the big thing is to share with the people you think would benefit, and just know they're not going to get it the first time. Most of them are not going to get it the first time. Some of them may never get it. This is not normie level stuff. It's just not. This is like we're way up here. We're not doing well, my doctor said this. And I'm going to emphasize that if anybody out there starts thinking that nicotinic acid is the magical fix-it-all to everything, because there are groups out there that think that. It is not. You cannot correct a zinc deficiency with nicotinic acid, right? And we have a saying here that the poison always wins. So if somebody is trying to continually, they're like, well, I think vitamin A is good, and I think nicotinic acid is good, so I'm going to take a crap load of both of them. The saying we have is the poison always wins. Whether that's pharmaceutical meds and nicotinic acid or other stuff, we first stop intoxing before we really start trying to push detoxing. That's the order. Stopping the poisons in is the most important. So anyway, I'm going to go. Hope you all enjoyed it. Have a great week. I don't know what the topic will be next week, but it'll be something fun as usual. Hope you all enjoyed it again.